Hey, welcome to another episode of TPS Traffic Jam. My name is Sean Shapiro, and joining me in the studio is Adam Ruppel. He is the co-founder of Drive Festival, and I'm really excited to talk about it. So welcome to the studio. Thanks for coming in.
Hey, I'm excited to be here, Sean. So great to finally meet you.
Yes, we've been talking for a while about different things. We have a lot of the similar interests.
For sure.
We like cars. We like watches.
Watches?
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
So it's coming up. First of all, when is the event? What is the event? Because I'm sure there's many people who love cars but haven't had the opportunity to come out to the festival yet.
Yeah, so we just started this actually 2021 in September. So this will be the third year, and it's at Canadian Tire Motorsport Park. So think of it as an auto show, but fully dynamic. Everything's moving.
That's amazing. If you watch the trailer just on your website,
Right.
It is just a sea of beautiful machines. And,
Right.
and so what can you do? Because do you have to have a car to go? Is it for anyone?
Actually, everybody asks this. We will park your car. You bring an exotic, we'll park it in the exotic area. We also have a show and shine for charity where you can bring a car, but it's really, we pre-organize all the cars that are coming to the show. So manufacturers bring cars. We also have cars for our Dream Car Speed Run, which is a 2-kilometer uphill. So we have about 130 cars every day, and we handpicked and hand select these. Then we also we're going to have about 14 clubs this year bringing cars. We have auto manufacturers bringing cars. So everything that you do, basically, you just drive to Bowmanville Park, and then you can experience this entire event.
So I get to the park. What's going to happen? What am I going to see there? Like, is there, active track?
Yes. So actually many active tracks. And we even internally on this 900-acre park, we have multiple tracks and multiple things going on. We have 3 test tracks, an off-road test track, a manufacturer test track where you can take out vehicles from, I think we have about 6 manufacturers this year. And we even have a performance track where we have some manufacturers, but you can also rent an exotic car. We also have, you can rent Lamborghinis, Ferraris, go out and do a couple laps in your dream car at our event. We also have a go-kart track where you can learn how to go-kart race, because everything's integrated in one of the biggest, if not the biggest, motorsport park in Canada. We also have like a fully off-road track, as I just mentioned, but you can also go on a ride-along with Kawasaki on a side-by-side. We have a specific track, and they're actually going to get air on it. We have an EV launch pad, so it's where you can go in the new Kia EV6 GT that does 600 horsepower, 0 to 60s in 3.4 seconds. And it's included. We have 5 of these going around constantly, just like an amusement park ride. And you can go for a launch in those. We have a Demi-Chalkis autocross zone where you can go with a pro driver in that. And sort of buttoning everything up is our Dream Car, Mobile One Dream Car Speed Run, where you can see ultra high-end exotics driving all weekend long up this Dream Car Speed Run, and race cars, vintage race cars, vintage muscle cars, everything.
Okay, you're telling me all this stuff. I'm excited just hearing you.
Right.
It's me. I grew up loving cars. My my uncles are engineers. They're this passion has been something that's I've been involved in, even though I don't own a supercar.
Right.
I love and appreciate them. So this is perfect for me. And obviously, I'm going to be
Right.
there. But I love the concept of being able to be interactive, to be able to have
Right.
these opportunities that really you don't get anywhere else.
You know, a typical car show, and this is when I conceptualized this event, I actually had a FAF Automotive Group. They reached out to me because I'm an event promoter for many years, and they said, we need a new kind of car show, car event in Ontario. And I said, well, I've got to do my research. So I went all around the world checking out car events. And I went to Goodwood Festival of Speed. And it is the world's ultimate automotive event. They have a hill climb, which is like our Dream Car Speed Run. They have test tracks. They integrate manufacturers in a way that you don't get at your typical car show, where it's like everything's behind stanchions and static.
Yeah, look,
This
don't
is
touch.
right. And ours, we have some of that because we have like car collections. I have like a Ferrari F50 and a LaFerrari. Those are behind ropes, but the owner may take his LaFerrari out and drive it, and everybody gets back and they hear the sound of it and they see the owner get the helmet on and race it up the Dream Car speed run. This gives you a lot of opportunities to not only engage with those people, but to see and hear these cars moving, which is a total different experience. Last year, the first time I went passenger, and I decided, you know what, I'm going to go in this friend's Bugatti Chiron. So
wow.
I went in the Bugatti Chiron. And I felt the power and the sound and everything else. And it doesn't do it justice just seeing it sitting there. It does so much more for everyone that's involved when it gets started up.
Yeah, this sounds like a very different experience altogether. We had a conversation on the phone last week talking about the concept of you own one of these vehicles. You can't drive it the way it was designed and meant to be driven legally on the road.
Correct.
And this gives the owners an opportunity to go,
show their
cars, show it off, enjoy
right.
it. And this is the right way to do it. It's a safe environment. It's a responsible environment.
Right. And I actually instruct at the track probably every other week for track days. And people bring their GT3 RSs. Some people bring their Ferraris and different cars out. So some of these cars come to the festival as well. But what we're giving an opportunity for by having that hill climb is that it's not as hard on the cars. So you can take those multi-million-dollar cars. I mean, the first year of the festival, we had a Legendary Motor Car brought an original GT40.
Wow.
And an original Cobra. And these are multi-million-dollar cars, and drove it up the hill. But you'd never see that at a track day because people don't bring $6 million cars and track them at a track day. Maybe the odd time, but very, very rarely. So this is the only chance that you're going to get to see these cars actually being driven by the owners. And some people actually ask me, how can I get to drive this Bugatti Chiron? You can't. But you can go to our performance track and you can rent like a 488 Ferrari. You can rent a Ferrari Challenge car, and you can actually drive on a racetrack with a professional instructor, and they'll give you, help you out.
Do it safely.
Yeah.
Because it's racing or being on the track. It's not something where you just push the button and go. There really is a skill to racing. It's something that people have to learn. And before you can become a racing driver approved to be on a track, you have to get a permit essentially approved.
Right, of course. And 25 years ago when I got into cars and I purchased my first sports car, I always thought, how hard can this be? You've got a steering wheel, you got a gas pedal, you got a brake, and my manual, you got a clutch and a gear shift. Like, this shouldn't be that hard. So when I went out to my first track day, I was like, I'm going to be a pro.
Yeah.
Well,
yeah.
I was terrible, absolutely terrible. And I've done hundreds of track days since and some races. And there's still a massive difference between where my level is and the great Canadian race car drivers. And there's even a difference between them and Lewis Hamilton or those kinds of drivers. It's unbelievable when you get into it and you peel back that onion, just how much skill it takes to drive cars at speed on a racetrack.
So much that people don't understand, and we see so many problems on the road where people who get behind these expensive cars or just powerful cars that aren't terribly expensive and end up in situations they weren't planning for, where they crash, lose control, or terrible things happen when people die
Right.
or get seriously injured. And it's because they're not skilled. They don't understand the true dynamics of racing.
And also, like, just your typical driver's license, that doesn't prepare you to all of a sudden you win the lottery and you go buy a 1,400 horsepower Bugatti Chiron or even a 500 or 500 horsepower Corvette. It doesn't prepare you for the dynamics. And we're selling a lot of cars that have tons of horsepower to people that don't know how to actually drive them properly. They don't have the right seating position. They don't know how to hold the steering wheel properly. They don't have the right vision. They're, and this is a situational, they don't have the right situational awareness. And this is what actually coming to the track teaches you. It makes you a better driver on the street.
And everyone I know that drives professionally, and I know a number of the people in the racing community would never drive the way they do on a track on the road. Just wouldn't even come into consideration.
No, I mean, coming down here to Toronto today, and this isn't a jab at Honda Civics, because normally I haven't seen Honda Civics, but for some reason I got swarmed by like 5 of them, and they were chopping me and cutting me off left, right, and center. And I was like, what is happening? There is a lot of bad driving out there, and a ton of bad driving. People driving on the bumpers of other cars, cutting in and out of lanes, moving up and they all think they're race car drivers in their Honda Civics or whatever vehicle they're driving.
My favorite thing, watching aggressive drivers when I'm in a personal vehicle. I mean, obviously, I hope to be able to identify the plate, the driver, and be able to lay charges later. But what I find entertaining is that we end up at the same stoplight.
Yes.
At every subsequent stoplight, unless they make a turn.
And they wonder why they have to do brake jobs every, 20,000 kilometers while they're using fuel terribly, while they're so hard on their vehicle and their vehicles don't last. I mean, and they're not getting ahead, and they're putting themselves in danger.
Some would say
other people, more importantly.
100%. But some of them think it's cathartic or therapeutic or it's fun. At least it's fun. But it's really stupid.
It is, because I think a lot of people think that it's like the only time that they get to be powerful, right? They're on the street and they're like, this is my time to shine. Or they're angry and they use that. And
well, emotion is a big problem.
Yeah.
That fuels a lot of problems. But I do love the comments, and we get so many on TikTok and all the platforms. One of my favorites was, the dial goes up to 280, I'm going to use all of it, or I bought 500 horsepower, I'm going to use all of them. And they say this, and I think they're almost being serious, but they really don't have the skills. They're writing checks that they can't cash.
Yeah, and I even feel like now I'm 51. When I was 31, I was a different driver than I am today. Like if I got angry, I got hot. Now I'm like, I just back off because I guess I'm wise enough as you get older just to know this isn't worth it. I'm not teaching them a lesson. There's no lesson I'm not a teacher out on the road. I'm there to be a calm driver, protect myself, protect other people, not get in an accident, and get to my location with my vehicle in one piece.
That's the big thing. I don't want to pay to repair what just
or
got
the
broken,
insurance,
for silly things. So we're on the same page there. So let's go back to the festival, because obviously this is promoting the safe use of these vehicles. But more about this, the go-karting. Like this is just, there's so many facets. Can you do it all in one day?
Actually, buy a 3-day pass if you really want to experience the whole event. And on the Saturday, it gets so jammed that it's going to be hard to get the test drives. The test drives are actually included in, not the exotics, but they're all included in with the general ticket price. So there's no extra cost for that. Some of the ride-alongs have charity components, so you pay for those because it would just be massive lineups.
Yeah.
Funny enough, the EV Launchpad, because it's sponsored by Aviva, Kia, Ivy, it's included.
That's awesome.
So there will be lineups, but on the Friday is the quiet day to come. And if you can't come on the Friday, I'd also suggest coming on the Sunday because it's a little quieter.
What is the cost
Saturday.
of entry? What is it cost? And are there different types of passes besides multiple day versus?
Yeah, right now I believe a Saturday or Sunday ticket for 18 and over is $31.
It's really reasonable.
And kids 12 and under are free.
Wow.
And actually, sorry, it's not even 31. I think it's $26 right now, plus HST. And if you want to buy a 3-day pass, it's $32.
That's all?
That's it.
I was expecting a much bigger ticket price.
Well, we because we're launching this event and we want to keep increasing attendance. Last year we had 19,000. This year we're aiming at 30,000. We just wanted to keep the price at a price point where families can come out and it's a relatively inexpensive day.
That sounds great. If I want to bring my car, what's involved there?
So
I don't have a car worth bringing, by the way, but if I had one.
Yeah, I mean, you can apply for the Mobile One Dream Car Speed Run. A little late on that. We generally work with the clubs, but we're also have a show and shine area in general parking where you can pay $20 and you can put your prized possession there, and that will kind of be like premium parking for the for the nice cars.
I like it. If in terms of the big message behind the event, because there's a whole bunch of great stuff going on here, but is there a big singular message, or is it just so many different things about bringing the community together for the car community?
I think this is the first time I've been asked this, so you're kind of putting me on the spot. But I think if we had to come with it, it's that there's so much to transportation and automobiles that automobiles should be fun, you know? And I think that's what the message of Drive Festival. It should be fun and accessible.
It's celebrating driving.
Right.
I like that. We get accused often in the city of Toronto of being car centric or point in that direction. And while many of us really love cars and everything to do with transportation, and
Right.
that's how I ended up in traffic services, because I'm a motorcycle guy and a
Right.
car guy. Anything motorcycle related at the
Yes.
event?
Actually, we have Kawasaki Aprilia
Okay,
doing test rides.
really?
Yes. So they have some test bikes there. And if you have your motorcycle license and bring your gear, you can actually ride some bikes there. And you kind of got me on the spot there because I don't have this off the top of my head. My salesperson's probably going to be like,
Why'd you say that?
Yeah. but I believe that's
pretty exciting. We won't hold you to it, but that's very
Yeah.
exciting. Any opportunity to look and experience and really get into a different way of seeing cars, because the car show, we touched on it briefly earlier. It's a show. Go look, and you don't hear, you don't see, you don't smell. It's more of an experience.
They're actually doing some experiential now, so I have to give them credit. They had a test track inside.
Yes.
And they had a Jeep test track as well. So they did a good job. But, I kind of see this as not being a competitor to the auto show, but another way to reach consumers that's different. The auto show's been around for a long time. It's a great following. It's in February. There's not much to do, so it's a great place to see. And they do a very good job in Toronto with the Toronto Auto Show. But ours is just different. It's more experiential.
I like it. I meant to tell you earlier that in terms of knowing how to drive and thinking I got behind the wheel of a simulator.
Yep.
I figured video games. I'm good with
Right.
video games. I was not good with video games. Like the simulators are
Amazing.
It was shocking. But I was shocked at how bad I was, and I think of myself as a very good driver, and someone who's got track experience and extensive motorcycle training, and I stunk.
Well, yeah, I think there's also it takes a while to be able to understand the simulator because it isn't an exact transfer. People that don't play video games have a little bit harder time with the simulators, but the transfer, Max Verstappen, for instance, is amazing on the simulator and an amazing driver. I think once you're at the top tier, you're going to transfer over. But I find that some people that are quite very good drivers don't necessarily always transfer. It takes a while to transfer to it because you got to get a feel.
It was making me nauseous. This was a static one; it didn't move, and I think that may have been part of the problem.
HIP, they actually do it professionally, and I believe they're out of Ajax, and they have a simulator. I think it's worth $300,000. It actually moves you around to give you the full. To give you the full. So when you're turning, it gives you the full G forces, gives you the downhills, gives you the uphills,
wild.
gives you the acceleration, gives you the braking, and it spins you around, and it looks unbelievable. They gave me a little demonstration of it.
That's cool. I have to head over there because I've spoken to those guys. So I did a podcast with a Tim Hortons owner operator, and I asked,
Right.
what's your favorite donut? And being that you are in the car stage, what's your favorite car?
My favorite
Is that
car.
even a fair question? Because it's really categories and
So yeah, actually that's a very fair question because I want to ask you what your favorite car is afterwards. So my favorite car now is not something new. It used to be I was always chasing the new greatest, and I'd tell you right now, my favorite car to drive on the track is probably a Porsche GT3 RS, and I've driven them on the track. I haven't owned one, but I've driven them on the track. Great, just out of the box street car that you can take to the track. Might not choose that as my street car, but my favorite car, I almost bought it, is a Porsche James Dean 550 Spider replica. So it is that little tiny, unfortunately, James Dean died in it, but it's actually like a little replica. So I'm trying to, in the next like 3 or 4 years, get my hands on a replica 550 Spider, and that will be my like dream car.
Your grail car, that's it.
Yeah.
I
can't afford a real one. They're $5 million.
Oh wow.
Yeah.
Yeah. I don't have a budget for the things I like, but there's so many that vehicles that I've always loved. But I'm 6'5", I'm 300 pounds. I don't fit into these vehicles.
Right.
So I've always wanted to get like a Humvee.
Like an original
like
one.
an original military spec or
diesel with a diesel.
Oh, of course.
Yeah.
And I've driven them. I've rented
Yeah.
some. I've played with them. I love them. They're not exactly comfortable, roomy, magical vehicles, but I really love them.
They're cool. And we've actually had some like military style vehicles at our event. I believe we've had one of the original Humvees as well, the Hummers. Last year we actually had the on display. General Motors brought out the new Hummer
one?
EV.
Right.
Do you like that?
So I actually had a second hand. I was going to buy it's an H2, isn't it? They modeled on the
No,
H2.
I think it's more it's bigger.
H1?
It's not an H1, but it's a
somewhere between.
bigger.
So
it's in between the H2 and H1, and it's a full EV.
So
vehicle.
if H1 is the Humvee equivalent, and then there's an H2 was the smaller one built on
Yeah,
the Suburban
and then they had
frame.
an H3, I think.
H3 was weird. I thought I wanted one. I had the guy bring it in.
An H2.
H2 had to be basically a big
Right.
Suburban, and I got in and it had ostrich leather seats and it was green. It was beautiful. I looked out the window and I saw the interior of the vehicle because the windows, I mean, they were below my sideline, so I couldn't buy it because I couldn't drive it because I couldn't fit into it. I was very disappointed. Because I was
Right.
close to having sort of what I wanted, but anyway, it wasn't meant to be. And I've been a big fan of the Porsches, 911s. Like that's all I ever wanted was a Porsche
Right.
as a kid, or a Vector W8 twin turbo. I thought that was pretty cool.
That cool car. I don't think it's a great car to drive.
No, I've seen nothing good about it after the fact.
Yeah.
But I had a poster of it in my room when I was a kid.
And do you remember the movie that it was in where it crashed?
No.
They used it in a movie, and I think it was something Sun, and it had a few big actors in it. Wesley Snipes,
Really?
I believe, was in it. You could look it up, but the Vector twin turbo had a big part in or maybe a small part, but a big part as a car in a movie. We're talking in the early 90s because it was like that was like a late 80s, early 90s.
Oh, 100%.
And it had it had a full like cockpit, like about 1,000 buttons.
Yeah, it was for the time, very futuristic.
Right.
And I didn't realize they actually made a new version of it, or a newer version, more. That one's not for me. I like the original one but it's about dream cars. It has nothing to do with the reality of getting behind the wheel.
No.
It's just being able to look at that car and go, wow.
Yeah, if you drove that car, you don't want to drive it. You'd be probably very disappointed compared to
The
the
Countach
Countach.
growing up, I thought that was going to be the bee's knees. Again,
Yeah.
another one of the. There were some classic cars that just meant everything in terms of my childhood and wanting cars.
I got to drive a 1956 Mercedes Gullwing. I believe it's coming back to Drive Festival, and I would say that if I won the lottery or found out that I had an uncle who was
Left
one of
you
the
a small
first,
fortune, yeah?
who was one of the first owners of Microsoft or something, and he left me a small fortune, then I think that might be my grail car. But they're about $1.5 million, $2 million.
Oh, yeah.
But I got to drive it, and
So I see that's enough for me. I don't want to insure it. I don't want to. I don't want to.
yeah, the
repair it.
headaches,
Yeah,
because
there's a
there
lot.
is a lot behind these cars, like a lot of maintenance that goes into hypercars, supercars. That's the one great thing about certain manufacturers, like the cars are the newer ones are much more reliable.
What do you think about electric cars?
I actually really I got to drive a Taycan 4S
I don't even know what that is.
Porsche, the Porsche EV, and I thought it was terrific.
Okay.
That being said, I think we're still a little bit away from the charging network. I drive a fair distance, so I just don't see how it fits in right now. But I think in 3 or 4 years of our 2-car family or potentially 3-car family, the next one's going to be an EV.
I love the concept.
Right.
I really do love the concept, and as many people say, it's range anxiety. I think that's what's
Right.
the terminology is for it. I did go and put a deposit down on a Cybertruck.
Oh, everybody. That is the most polarizing vehicle. People either love it or they hate it. There's no middle ground where people say, I'm not sure about the Cybertruck.
So I like the original one that was on stage that had the broken window. I don't know if I like the incarnations that are coming out in the trying to make it ready for sale.
Right.
I think.
And it's late.
Oh, it's years late. Like I basically put a deposit going on. Maybe I can afford it in 3 years, and it's been over 3 years.
Like they haven't even launched. No, Tesla, I think, are doing an amazing job for EVs. They have the infrastructure, the technology. They're doing an amazing job, but they don't even have the Roadster out yet. And I was supposed to be out years ago, and looks pretty amazing, but I haven't seen one. We'd love to have one at Drive Festival, but I don't even know if there's any around.
Text that Elon guy.
Yeah, I don't think he's going to get back to me.
You know the
And I don't use his Twitter or X.
The
Whatever
platform formerly known as Twitter.
Yeah.
My whole thing is, and I have a very different outlook on vehicles, and my wants and needs are very different than 100 years ago. And that is, I had to fit in it. I've got to be able to haul my family.
Right.
It has to be. I'm a one vehicle guy, and my motorcycle sits parked in my garage. I want something that's comfy, that gives me all my creature comforts. I would love something that does all the autopilot-y stuff that does it within, with supervision. But I'm not prepared to break the bank. To get a new one right now. I'm very happy with the one I have.
And actually, I'm going to be next week testing the EV6 GT. So they're loaning me one, and I'm doing launches for an hour straight.
Wow.
So to test it to make sure, to see where we need to be with battery charge, how we're going to create the course. We know it's going to work, but we're just like getting some baselines on it because it's the first year for doing that. So I'm actually going to be using that car and full acceleration. As far as acceleration, the EVs accelerate way faster.
It's pure torque, right?
Yeah. Like I just saw the world's fastest car is a Rimac, and it did 0 to 60 launches in 1.6 seconds.
Is that the Czechoslovakian? Is that the one that's...
Yeah, and actually I believe Pininfarina uses their architecture for that car, but it's something like 1,800 horsepower and 1,200 foot-pounds of torque. Wow. Don't even quote me. I don't know the...
It's a lot.
But it's a lot, but I just saw somebody did a YouTube video, actually this morning, on the world's fastest accelerating car, and it was...
Did someone crash one of their original ones?
Yeah, it was the Richard Hammond from Talk Beer.
Yes.
He flipped it. And that's one of the things that, asking you, some of these fires that have happened with the EVs, putting them out, it has been a bit of a challenge, let's say.
Different those batteries can even being submerged or covered in water for hours can reignite. I'm obviously not a firefighter, but my understanding is that they've had to develop new technologies to combat these vehicle fires. And when we impound a vehicle or a vehicle is being towed to an impound, subsequent to a collision, they have to be separated now,
right?
Because they could combust again.
Yeah, and in 20 years, we don't know if we're going to have this conversation whether hydrogen's going to be a new thing, whether it's some kind of other biofuel, or whether EVs are going to be the benchmark, or maybe it's going to be a combination of all of it.
Well, interestingly, I've been told that they're working on some new technology, new battery technology that will be less prone to fire,
right?
Or at least be easier to respond to when it comes to a fire situation. And that I'm not afraid of the flames. I don't want to be in a car fire, but
exactly, it's rare.
But we had something I think it was a Tesla mounted a curb in Toronto, not in the not too distant past,
right?
And distant past, recent past. Anyway, it was recently, and it was on fire, and it was a whole big to deal with it. And I've seen technologies. Listen, it's created technology by virtue of creating a problem. They're finding new solutions, so it's great. Someone's making money.
But we're also going to be talking about in 10 or 20 years autonomous driving and how that is going to really change the landscape. I actually feel that that's going to help things long term once we can get that technology going.
Oh yeah, if you look, I think Elon is the one who talked about the fact that one day nobody will own a car at all.
Right,
you just call for one, it'll pick you up and it'll take you.
It'll be like Uber, but who knows if it will be Uber or it will be Tesla or it will be General Motors or a combination or Toyota.
Hopes. I have high hopes. And in terms of technologies, and we've gone way off the track
of
discussing
Drive Festival.
Drive Festival, yeah. But we talk about autonomous vehicles, which there are none really available. There's a pilot in the province of Ontario. There's only 2 companies or 2 applicants or approved bodies that are using them. One's a university, and one is GATIC, which is working with Loblaws. They have like 5 vehicles total in the province that are operating in any level of autonomy, which is level 4 or 5. When you talk about Tesla in their full self-drive mode, it's not self-drive; it's beta software, and it still requires the driver to be fully involved, engaged, because they're responsible for everything.
100%.
But if you remember Time Cop?
Yes.
And he gets in his take me home, and there's no windows in the car. He takes a nap in the back, gets but you could live anywhere. You could do anything. It would change your whole life. But it would also mean that everything on the road would respond to everything around you autonomously, meaning if someone walked into the road, everything would stop. That's a lot of power and a lot of concern that I have for someone to have a protest and shut down a highway.
Yeah, that's an interesting, because
I
guess the passenger in the car can get out and say, get out of the way. Right?
Well, we've seen some of that recently with people who are protesting and people get out and try. It doesn't end well. This is all bad stuff. But it is interesting. It adds another layer of what if.
Yeah, because if you're driving that car, you can then take another lane and drive around them, or you can back up and do a UE. But is the autonomous car going to be smart enough to realize
how long is it going to take to do that? Because we usually operate faster than most computers can. I watched when Honda Indy was in. We had some road closures right at Lakeshore and in Strawn, and what I assume was a Tesla in full self-drive drove to the end of a closed road and had pylons, and it was just hunting, trying to figure out what to do next. And eventually, I assume the driver then took over and did a U-turn and went back from whence they came. But it was interesting because it was not behavior that you would say is normal. If anything, I would have said that's an impaired driver. But I think it was a computer. Yeah,
but also keep in mind that AI technology is also like changing the game. It's going to change everything in the next 5 or 8 years. But we're way off Drive Festival now.
Yeah, we'll see how this may have to be an edit after all. So dates. Let's talk about that. So getting back to that Drive Festival, when is it? Where we've covered where it is, and how can we get in touch with you? How can I buy my tickets now? All that good stuff.
Okay, so it's September 8th to 10th. Drive Festival presented by Mobile One, and go to our website drivefestival.com. Tickets are available there. The earlier you buy the tickets, the better the pricing for you. And if you need to reach out to us, you can reach out to us, info@drivefestival.com.
Awesome. Well, thanks for coming in. We obviously can talk forever.
Yeah, we went off down a rabbit hole there for a little bit.
Yeah,
it was cool.
And I'm sure we'll speak again. And I look forward to attending the event because
awesome.
That happens to be a very good weekend.
And I know a police officer that can take you for a run up at the hill.
With that particular police officer, I may have been in a car on a track with him already.
Right.
I think I'm good.
Okay, good.
Awesome. Well, thanks again.
Thanks so much, Sean.